Hello, making a video, second attempt. Here's my beautiful alien spaceship 3, which matches my outfit. And I have 2 daisies in here from the garden, fresh, very, very lovely. They smell so amazing. And if I had a panel of base perfume oils, then different fragrance oils, high quality, like the ones that the very, very high-end perfumers are using, then I would try to imitate this smell. I would try to. Unless they already have a daisy fragrance oil, but maybe they do. Okay. But then, that's their interpretation, so maybe I can still make my own daisy fragrance oil. So that would be really awesome. They feel so good. That's so nice. So I want to talk about the decentralization of self. This is part 7. And I want to ponder over what goes on in people's minds when they are constantly trying to stay in control of any given situation. So what's happening in their brains at that moment? Obviously, they must be afraid. They are terrified of feeling not in charge, of feeling not in control of the situation. And I see this in particular with men feeling like they're not in control when they are with a woman. I'm not laughing about this, but this is what I observe. And I don't understand why that is, because, on first observation, you would think that's why I'm smiling, because the woman in general is not as strong as the man in general. Okay, so I know that Danny could easily wrestle me down to the ground and beat me up and do all kinds of things, and I might be able to hit back and stuff like this, but ultimately I would lose that fight. So even though he's shorter than I am, so that is the general rule with women and men. Okay, yet the man feels like he is not in control. And then what happens is, then he gets mad at the woman, because his ego, not even his rational thinking, if he would use rational thinking, then he would realize that's not the woman's fault, that he is not feeling in control or in charge. It's not the woman's fault at all, but his ego will project this blame onto her. Okay, will funnel that anger and that blame onto her, and blame her for him feeling like he's not in control. Kind of like what I talked about before was the Ernie effect from Sesame Street. Ernie wants to borrow the vacuum cleaner from Mr. Hoover, and then he figures Mr. Hoover is probably going to get mad at him for bothering him now, and so then he drives himself into a rage. Mr. Hoover hadn't even done anything wrong at all, but Ernie drives himself into that rage and funnels that anger and this insinuation onto Mr. Hoover, and then by the time he gets to his door, Ernie is the one raging at Mr. Hoover, and Mr. Hoover has no idea why he's raging. So that's like that situation. My mother called it the Ernie effect. I had that going big time in my life. That's why she would always remind me that I was doing the Ernie effect and that the other person doesn't even have anything to do with this. So she was always very much the judge over those type of situations. And when I was older, when I was a teenager, then that got me to reflect over it. But when I was a child, that wasn't doing me any good at all. I just needed the mommy to be there on my side, unconditionally. But she didn't understand that. She didn't understand child psychology. So, but what hater men do is they funnel this kind of anger and resentment and insinuation onto the woman, even though the woman is completely innocent, because their egos tell them that this woman is the perpetrator. That woman is making you feel like this, and she has no idea why. Okay. So, and this is what's going on massively worldwide. And that's why I keep writing on the internet wherever I find that the appropriate situation to respond with my proposal to create therapy help centers worldwide, one in each single walking distance community. In every community, if it's rural, in a radius of, let's say, a mile or something, walking distance where people can walk to. And then have another one further out. And in a city community, you can separate these things into different districts, but even those districts that they have created are quite large, but we'll do sub-districts for therapy help centers. And instead of having a church on every street corner, which only causes more division, we need to have a therapy help center at every street corner, so to speak. If you want to do this, then you can do that. You make a therapy help center out of every single church. In a big city, that would be probably very helpful if you have even more of them in a specific radius. So then in a rural community where you might only have 100 people that span a radius of a mile. So in a city you have a very condensed population of maybe tens or hundreds of thousands of people in a mile radius. So that's why convert the churches into therapy help centers. You don't have to change much in that building. You put a padded wall, install a padded wall on one side inside of the facility, and do a double or triple layer rug, so which we had at the Primal Training and Treatment Center in LA. I always thought that is really cool, this triple layer rug, and I knew why they created that, because that rug was throughout the entire therapy rooms, the group room, and also the individual therapy rooms. So they had this rug in there, which is really great. The one problem was they had brick walls in some of the individual rooms. That was not so good, because someone who would completely freak out would bang their head against that. And I'm embarrassed to admit this. I was one of those people. And to be completely honest, I think I was the only one. So that's really bad, but I have done a lot of healing since then. So that was 30 years ago. I was in my 20s. I was completely out of it. I mean, literally out of it. I was literally 5150, which is the description of someone who is basically not being able to survive on their own without being in some kind of halfway house or clinic. That's why Dr. Arthur Janoff was against admitting me to his treatment center, because at that time, when I started at 26, they were only allowed to have a school. So it was only a school to train people to become therapists. But in this setting of having the school, that was really an outward label. Of course, we also had to go through this process ourselves. So, but that was really the best time in all of I would say in my whole life. This was really the best time, the 3 years there, when Art Janoff was still teaching, before he retired. So 3 years of school with Art Janoff. It was top-notch, supreme. I mean, this was worth every penny. Paul doesn't agree with me, of course, on that. There's a lot of people that wouldn't agree with me. He calls it a cult. A lot of people will call it a cult. Okay. For me, it was a lifesaver. Absolute lifesaver. And it also gave us a purpose. It gave us the feeling like we're not just Meshuggah, as my mother used that word. We're also trainees. We're also smart. We're also learning. So, and I want to continue in those footsteps, because that was incidental that he created it like this, because he wasn't allowed to call it a treatment center, because he was going through divorce battles with his ex-wife having taken over his Primal Institute in LA, and she didn't even want him to have a treatment center, an official treatment center, so he had to call it a school, a training center to train therapists. But obviously, in any kind of psychoanalytical training facility, the person who is being trained is also going through that psychoanalytical process themselves, and that's necessary in order to even understand the other person. So otherwise, how can you understand a client if you don't know what that feels like? So that's very important, very, very important. So it was a good incidental situation, for me in particular, but I think for other people too. So once that was solved with the lawyers and all of that, and he was allowed to have a treatment center, he was no longer calling it a school, he was calling it the primal center and primal therapy center, a help center. And once we were no longer in the training status, because it costs a lot of money at some point, I was just a regular client, then that does something to our egos. It's like, oh, we're no longer the trainee. That doesn't feel so good, Obviously, we all have egos. So, and whether that is very consciously felt or subconsciously felt. It's there, and then we feel like we're kind of losers. Now we're just the clients and so on, you know. But by that time when that happened, I had already gotten so much help with the therapy that I was able to feel my way through without feeling like a loser. So I knew I had already gone through the school. That was boosting my self-esteem a little bit, and also gave me a lot of knowledge. And then by the time I was just a client, I had enough of all of that, the help, and also the knowledge, and also the feeling of accomplishment, that I was no longer feeling like a loser. So I don't know what that was for other people, so I can't speak for them. But people have died in primal therapy. This is very important for me to mention this, because I don't know where they're at right now. I haven't seen them in a long time. They moved the center from Venice to Santa Monica. I have never been in the Santa Monica center. So I don't know where they're at. I don't know whether Franz Janov is still there. Arjanov died just a few months after Anneliese died. That was in 2017. I don't know how Franz Janov is doing. I wrote to her, she doesn't write me back. Michelle didn't write me back. I don't know what's going on with those people. Okay, I wish them the very best, and I hope they're doing well. I don't know who's taken over the center. I don't know how they're practicing it. I don't know if some of the people that I have known are still there. But I wish all of them the best. But the way that I have left the center behind, the way it was run, after Arjanov left, that's when the problems happened. That's when a lot of problems happened. There were already some problems and challenges, but people didn't die while Arjanov was there. So that happened after Arjanov had left, and like a year or two later after Arjanov had left. So, and that's really serious. So that could also be coincidental. That I'm not saying that they died because Arjanov left or because it was mismanaged or something, but it's something to think about. And I was suicidal a lot after Arjanov left. So it was very difficult because the therapists were not dealing with me, and I saw that they weren't dealing with other people properly. One girl, that was really serious. One girl committed suicide who was my age, and I was not at the center at that time when that happened. That was in 1995, and that was very serious because and I know this from what the other people reported back to me, that I could clearly see that they were not handling this well. They were handling this in a very, very wrong way when she was telling people that she was suicidal. And I'm not blaming certain people. Some people didn't know better, but the people that were actually there, actively therapists at that time, they did not handle it well. So they did not know how to interact with her and how to make her feel safe. Okay, so this is real serious. Really, this is infinitely serious. And I was so infinitely sad that I wasn't there, because me just having been the client at that time, if I had been there, if I had been in that group session when her girlfriend broke up with her. I would have done everything to help her. I would not have let her go home alone, and in that devastated situation I would have also taken her into my apartment. I would have let her stay there. I would have let her dissolve her apartment where she was living alone. No, she was living with that girl. She died later living alone in an apartment in Venice. She didn't even have that apartment yet then. She, at that day when the girlfriend broke up with her, after that she moved out of her place because the girlfriend basically kicked her out. So I could have taken her into my apartment and we could have figured it out somehow, So I could have helped her for sure, 100%. I could have helped her. I could have saved her life. And I just so happened to not be at the center at that time. And what a horror. I didn't see all of these things coming because nobody told me about this. I heard all of that later from people. This is infinitely tragic and horrible. And these things can be avoided, when we have a therapy help center. First of all, there shouldn't be 100 people in that group therapy room. Then it becomes greedy, So there should be, in every group therapy room, there should be, I don't know, approximately 10 would be ideal, maybe 20 people. Okay, so in every therapy group session, 20 people. That's why, there's a lot of churches all over the place, any kind of church, All of these churches, whether they're Jehovah's Witness temples, Muslim mosques, Jewish ashrams, I don't know how they call it, or Buddhist, I don't know how they call all of these people, like Sangha or whatever is out there, okay? It needs to be converted into therapy help centers because we need every single one to be converted. That doesn't mean you have to remove your religious paraphernalia from the wall. It's not such a big deal. But don't force that religion on anyone. Okay, so if you have a bleeding Jesus on the wall, maybe someone will not like that, and because it's not fun to look at a bleeding Jesus. Okay, so maybe you can remove that. Also, a cross is a torture instrument. It's not. You hang a guillotine on the wall, so maybe we can have a democratic vote on that, whether the guillotine will come off the wall, or a sword, or a cross, or whatever. So, yeah, the photo of Muhammad, as long as he's not bleeding, or photo of Jesus without, a happy Jesus photo. Yeah, Buddha photo, that can all stay. Anything that is peaceful, Just don't hang something on the wall that says you should rape little girls or something. I have my spray bottle ready here, just in case. I know he's getting a little bit out of control now, and he can jump on the computer and flip the top of the screen over completely into a splits. So as he did yesterday. So we don't want to chance that again. I had to clean the whole computer up. The computer was completely smeared up with garden dirt. So yes, that is what I got ready. Yeah, all of these institutions, they need to be converted into therapy help centers. they should encourage people to hang something on the wall. If someone wants to paint a pink Jesus, like that one lady here that I met in this community, I didn't say anything, but at that time I was a little bit more rigid in regards to the Christian religion. I was a little bit on edge, right? I didn't say anything, but okay, if she wants to hang a pink Jesus on the wall, then she should be allowed to do it. Just don't make him bleed, maybe. So, or a Muhammad, but without telling people to rape little girls. And with the Buddha has a lot of good things to say. So Buddha, of course, you can hang Paramahansa Yogananda photos on the wall. You can even hang the Tibetan prayer flags on the wall. You can hang your artwork on the wall. All of that is good. Everything that's peaceful, right? And then, allow people to believe what they want to believe, Allow an atheist to come in, too. That's another belief. Let the atheist believe what he believes, okay? It is a negative type of belief. Negative not in a judgmental way, but negative in terms of he goes in the minus in terms of believing. So that's also a belief, yeah. The red numbers of belief, like he doesn't believe that the infinite cosmos is conscious, or this perfume bottle has a form of consciousness. So that's another belief system that goes into the minus. That's like he doesn't believe it, okay, but he also doesn't believe bullshit stuff. So. And then there's a lot of people that will believe that the bottle is conscious, but they will also believe bullshit stuff, that Jesus put water into wine and stuff like this, or turned water into perfume oil. Paul, please, you have to become active now. I can't do it. I am at the computer. He knows I have this bottle, so he's going for the piano now. Yeah, that's called living with an American Staffordshire. It is active, to say the least. It is not retirement yet, so that's for sure. But that situation could also be the right situation for you, so that you can live a couple of years longer and your heart rate being artificially accelerated, so that you don't fall asleep too soon. You don't want to retire too soon. So for some people, maybe that's like some kind of heart pacemaker or something. But for anyone who wants peace, I don't recommend them. So that's for sure. Alright, so you put the harness on now. I can put the perfume spray away. So that's what needs to happen. We need to have therapy help centers everywhere. Any kind of institution, whatever that is, needs to be turned into a therapy help center. You can even turn a Goodwill store into a therapy help center if they have an extra room, or they can turn a Red Cross facility over into therapy help center and have whatever, do all kinds of things there. They can still do soup kitchen and all of this. Homeless shelters can be turned into therapy help centers. Those are all open door centers, okay? And that's for people if they want to go there. That's an opportunity for any lonely person. Instead of going into a bar and drinking alcohol, they go into therapy help center, and they can help there in the garden. They can help in the kitchen. Everything should be free. Everything should be volunteer based. The food, everything should be free and volunteer based and donation based. Okay, and the government should give money to this, which they would never, because they're tied with the mafia. The mafia doesn't want this to happen because they don't want you to empower yourself. They want you to be dependent on your particular religion so they can control you better, so they can sell you their political narrative and their political religious associations that they artificially designed and put into your head. So that's what's happening, But all people need this help. Everyone, including Bill Gates, needs that help. And then if people actually get this help, you have to take him now. He's waiting now. You have to take him now. You have to take him for a walk now.
Okay, I have to drink this first.
Okay. So don't disappoint him. Yes, he already looks a little bit disappointed now. Yes. He has a pink chest harness on from the Papa dog, inherited, with an orange neck collar that has the beep function and the vibration function. It also has a shock function, but he doesn't use the shock. He only uses the beep and, if necessary, the vibration. Only in absolute extreme emergencies he would use a little zap, but only on low, very low, the lowest level. And this is made in China, and it is way, way better than any electronic training collar you can get in the United States. So yes, the baby dog, he looks good. I want to show the baby dog how good the baby dog looks. Yes. Oh, I'm afraid he might come over now and jump. I'm afraid he has a look on his face. I better take this bottle out just to be on the safe side. Because when I talk to him like this, he gets very rambunctious, and then he has a look on his face, and he likes that, me talking nice to him, and then he wants to express his love by jumping on the computer and on me, and if I have shorts on or a t-shirt, he will scratch me with the very, very sharp fingernails. So yeah, that is, people need to be warned about all of that. It's very important. Yes, be good now. Paul is going to take you. Yes, he is going to take you for a walk momentarily, but give a few more moments. So Paul, he's waiting.
I have to drink this first.
Okay. But anyway, so yeah, we need therapy help centers so urgently, you have no idea. Because then people can go to those places and hang out there all day long. Okay, this is like a community center. It's a contact center. It serves everything. It serves dating. It serves making friends. It serves getting involved with gardening. It serves an education on practical things, like gardening, plants, medicinal plants, self-healing, inwardness, of course, Jiddu Krishnamurti videos, Buddha, all of that needs to be there for people to see and watch and in the kitchen to work together, to create something, to make something for other people as a present, a giving and taking, as Rudolf Steiner was emphasizing, the importance of that, this giving to someone else, the Blue God agrees, 3333, okay, right there when I'm saying this, giving to someone. This is an act of kindness, of love, okay? And for someone else to gratefully take something. And then later on, not a business deal, not a contract, not an I owe you, not a you owe me, okay? So I give and you take, and I give you unconditionally. You take gratefully, okay? And then later on, you might be able to give me something that I need in that moment. And maybe not. So it's not an exchange. Okay? It's not like I gave you all of this and now you owe me. which happens in relationships all the time. I was with that guy Javad. I'm not going to mention his last name. He was from Iran. I was living in the same apartment building there with him in West LA. West LA is Iranian now. It's completely, the entire area is Iranian. It's like you entered into Iran. Okay, my dentist too, everyone. Okay, the shops, rose ice cream, which is cool, but I don't want to be told that it's cool to rape little children. No, thank you very much. Okay. If you're Iranian, okay, cool, but keep your religion to yourself. Okay, do not bandage me up like a mummy so that no man can look at me. Okay, but that's what Javad would have liked to do. So it was still in the United States, obviously, that Iranian piece of land there. Yeah. So obviously they have to go by those rules. They can't mummify a woman just because they feel like they need to be in control again. And this is what I'm talking about here in this video, the decentralization of self. That's the only path. Okay, you have to understand this bottom up, the importance of letting go of other people, letting go of your trying to control other people, and a relationship of giving and taking. All of this should be unconditional, as every therapy help center should offer this philosophy to people. Every relationship should be based on this, He does things for me, I do other things, shared work. We brainstorm, we figure things out, we strategize, how do we do this? We have to have plan A, B, C, D, and so on, the whole alphabet of plans, okay? So what are we going to do next if this happens? Obviously, that's what we have to do, We have to learn, we have to be mindful in the way we live, in the way we interact, even in the way we interact with business partners or co-workers or realtors or anyone who is in law enforcement, in the legal system, anywhere, everywhere. Okay, we still need to be kind to each other. People shouldn't refuse they should not resist some kind of police officer, what they say to them, or law enforcement. And if a law enforcement person comes at them, they shouldn't be freaking out and kicking at that person. They should be cooperating with that person. Okay, then everything is peaceful. Nobody's gonna get straitjacketed or restrained or have some police officer's knee on their chest. Okay, so, and having said that, this police officer that has had to restrain George Floyd, he was doing his job. He didn't mean to hurt him. He didn't even hurt him. What happened is the corporate agenda murdered George Floyd later on in the hospital. Okay. That's what happened. So that they can blame the police officer and create a completely artificial drama out of the situation. That's what happened. The police officer is completely innocent, detained wrongfully, put into solitary confinement. What a horror. Many police officers involved there, one by one, after getting arrested, wrongfully arrested, wrongfully penalized. It's very important to say this. Why is this dwindling in this direction now? Because the corporate agenda is creating this rift. They want to create this rift among people. They want to create this. They want to split people apart into different camps, because then they can manipulate you and how you vote. That's all there is to it. Okay? And the people on the very top of the pyramid, they profit from that. And this is what's happening. This is the truth. Do you want peace or do you want war? If you want peace, vote for Donald Trump. If you want order restored in this country and egalitarianism, vote for Donald Trump. If you want war, that's what's happening right now with this administration. Nobody really wants war. No living body, no cell in your body wants war and conflict. Your entire body wants peace and be in a situation of harmony and love and kindness and no conflicts. Okay, this is very, very important. There's this therapist. Her name is Hia Parks. I believe she's from the Philippine Islands and traveled to South America. They had a shamanistic ritual retreat there. That was many, many years ago. That was like, I don't know, that was 20 years ago or 17 years ago, sometime around that time. And filmmaker Clemens Kubi went there. He's from Germany, and he filmed this shamanistic retreat and what was happening and the healing sessions that people received. And Hia Parks she really stood out there because she did energy healing on this one guy from Germany. Even thinking about that, the guy was a smoker and an alcohol drinker, and he didn't have his life together, and he was in a lot of pain. He was trying to escape from pain and all of that and conflict. So at this center, they weren't allowed to drink alcohol or smoke or any of these things. So she picked him out. She saw that she could definitely help him with this. She took his hand. She put him set him on the floor. She did energy healing with a dance, with a shamanistic type of dance. I don't know if they call them shamans in the Philippine Islands, but energy healing dance. And this was, Clemens Kubi filmed this, was absolutely amazing. And they had drums also, that they had native people that were drumming to this, native people from South America, from the equator. And I think they were in the Amazonian rainforest. And so Hia Parks was doing this energy healing on this guy, this young German guy, and I could feel it, what it was doing to him. He was becoming so relaxed that he was lying down on his back, and he was completely going into another realm. He was going into another dimension, in a sense, without any drugs whatsoever, without any substances. Just the energy healing and the drumming and the rhythm of all of this. Some of the other energy healers were getting jealous. They saw that she was very, very good with this. And so after that session, when the guy came back into full consciousness, he said that this was the first time in his life that he's ever felt something like this, where he went to a place energetically that was free from any kind of confrontation and free from any kind of conflict. That is very hard to describe for anyone who has never experienced this. A space, a moment, a dimension, a mental state free from conflict. I was so amazed by this that I wanted to get a session with her. That was later on, when I went to my parents in Germany. I wanted to see her. She was living with that German guy now by that time in Switzerland, and I wanted to see her, but didn't work out. I changed my mind on that later on because I felt like I had so much pain in me that I felt like I would be burdening this very petite lady from the Philippine Islands. So I canceled it. And, I put other people above me. I'm not gonna butt in there with my mountain of emotional pain and then don't know what that does to someone else. I mean, I'm probably underestimating her abilities and all of this, but it just felt like me being big and fat and tall and this petite little fairy having to deal with my onslaught of mental illness and pain. So I just couldn't do it. But she really helped that guy. What an amazing that film, on the way into another dimension. That's what that documentary film is called. You can find that on YouTube. It's there for free. The session with Hia Parks, I don't know if that's in the film. I think it is. I think it's in the film. Yes, it is. And she also talks about this in the end, so that she could have let him stay longer in that realm. But obviously they had to also, at some point, they had to wrap up the retreat and all of this, so she had to let him come back out. But they were gonna do that again in the future, and they were becoming friends and all of that, and then they became a couple. And it's all good. It's completely, perfectly fine. So there's nothing wrong with that. So all the animals in that entire area, they were feeling this energy, this healing energy that was happening during that retreat. So they were starting to sing and howl and making sounds, and they were very, very, very amazed by all of this. So, and I could feel it, my whole body, just watching that film. And we need something like this. We need energy. We need energy healing. This is very, very important for people. We need different processes of... Yes, I got the spray bottle. The baby dog has to go for a walk now, or he's gonna definitely jump on my computer and all of this. I'm sorry that he's... Oh, listen, you gotta take him for a walk now.
Okay.
Oh, please, seriously. No, really seriously, you have to take him for a walk now. Do it now. This is not okay. It's not okay to put the chest harness on and then, let's just go back on the internet for an hour. That's not okay. So it's too bad I have to be with a whip behind people. That's not good. It's not good. I don't like that. I need people to be responsible on their own. And everyone has to contribute to this living together. So it's very, very important. So if we have, if we're dealing with regular people, people with mental illness like me and different things, but that that still can feed themselves. At least I wasn't completely 5150. I could still feed myself. So people who can't feed themselves, or who are neglecting themselves in some way, okay, where it becomes a health hazard, that's a fully 5150 declaration form. That's a psychiatric term. When people can't take care of themselves, they need to be in a care facility of some sort. And for that, I designed in my head 3 other types of therapy help centers that are all closed, that are stationary, that are live-in facilities where people are not in prison cells or in any kind of incarceration, but those sanatoriums the sanatoriums need to be closed. So they can't have people come and go, because a homeless schizophrenic would go in there, get help, and then walk back out and go back on the drugs or do crazy stuff. Okay, so obviously there are a lot of people that need to be detained in a sanatorium, but not in a particular prison cell. So for that, we have to have robots and drones that patrol this entire compound, because otherwise they would all go at each other's throats, and we can't allow that to happen. And then obviously they also have 2 units, 1 unit for women, 1 unit for men. Otherwise there'll be total raping going on all the time, nonstop. So, and that'll be very difficult to oversee from any kind of staff, even robots and drones. So in order to bring some kind of order into the situation, then they can have certain times of the day where they have a garden where they can bring women and men together, but it has to be completely controlled and monitored by staff and by machines, obviously. So, and then it will work. So we have to have 3 closed therapy sanatoriums, and we need to have many of them also in each community. We can convert entire hospitals into those. We can definitely convert all prisons into cluster B therapy help centers, and we can convert all hospitals into the drug rehab centers and into the psychiatric hospital type of centers, the schizoid type of centers, the cluster A centers. Okay, that's cluster A is schizoid people, so homeless people. So we have there's a lot of mixing in between happening. Of course, a lot of people, they have all 3 characteristics happening. They are alcoholics, drug addicts, heroin addicts, schizoid, and cluster B. They're violent also. So a lot of that is happening. But we have to have this broad differentiation and these broadly different therapy help centers in order to create some kind of order, because the majority obviously of just simply criminals that usually have a drug problem as well, which makes all of that worse. Their systems are completely acidic. They're literally acidic. They need to be brought to the cluster B centers, which can be created out of any kind of prison, worldwide. So, and then with the right approach, not what's going on, not the way they handle it right now. This is not working at all. So if we have it the way, I will get more into the depths of this, because I will never stop talking about it, because I hope that either during my lifetime or post-hume, that one of the chat GPTs will pick up on this and say, hey, this is a good idea, let's implement this, right? Okay, so I'm hoping for that to happen. I doubt that any human will pick up on that and say, yeah, let's do this. Because humans are too, and almost all humans, I mean, like 99.9% of humans, not all, there may be someone who will see the necessity of this, but almost all humans will be against it because it goes against their upbringing, it goes against their indoctrination, it goes against their religion and how they think that the world should be managed and so on. So obviously it's like a waste of time for me even trying to talk to the majority of people, but it doesn't hurt to make a video, obviously. It will piss the shit out of people. I can't worry about this because what I'm saying here is real, absolute, rock solid help. Okay. This, what I'm saying, what I'm proposing, is going to make the world not just better, but turn the world into a paradise. The Blue Card agrees, 5555. Okay. It's amazing how these numbers come up when I make these very totalitarian, absolutist statements. Because I know that is absolutistly true. Okay. Absolute, totally, radically. Yes, I am 1000% convinced of this. Okay, this is not just some guesswork. Okay, I know that this is going to help the world. So, just to wrap the video up, let's go back to what would happen in a brain like that guy Brian who butchered that woman down to the ground. Left her there for dead. Or anyone like him. You know, what would happen to a guy like this if he was brought into a cluster B center? Or if the prisons were gradually converted into cluster B centers? What would happen to him? What would happen in his brain? How would the healing process? What is concretely going on during this healing process? These are the questions we need to ask. Not just say, oh, let's try this therapy process or this approach or that approach. We need to know, what does that approach to the brain? What's happening inside of that brain while he's going through this particular treatment? So, of course, he needs to go into his own mind. How does a person like this? He's never going to voluntarily go into his own mind. Never. Because that's what cluster B is all about. That's what criminality is all about. The criminal always retreats into the ego, into this, what he thinks is safe, is to stay in charge, to stay in control, to feel like he's a god, to feel like he's a king. Deep down underneath, he knows he's not. Okay, but the ego, he wants to cling to the idea that he is. He wants to cling to the idea of being in control over the woman. Why is he so afraid of the woman? When he's much stronger than her. These are very important questions to ask. Why is the woman making him feel so afraid? He's afraid of rejection. This childhood trauma. Mama was cold. Mama was emotionally unavailable. Mama dumps the baby, drops the baby off at some care facility or this or that. Or the grandmother who's mean, or, mother is not protecting him. This is childhood trauma of the worst type. All of this is then later on funneled into an act out in the present moment. Acted out on a totally innocent woman, she's put into the mother figure and all of that. Watch Sam Vaknin's videos. He talks about this in depth. Okay. Watch his videos. Very, very informative videos. Sam Vaknin's videos are the most informative videos on cluster B personality disorder. Okay. And he's a super courageous guy. He has it himself. He wrote a book called I, Psychopath. Okay. And they have also made a documentary film about him and the problems that he's, and this is so courageous of him, with that particular disorder. So that's why he stands outside of the cluster B community, in the sense that he made this conscious decision to not act it out, or at least to keep the acting out to a minimum, to a peaceful, manageable situation. Okay, not beat a woman, not murder anyone. He had been in prison in England. Okay, so he had a lot of time to think about all of this, to go in, and he bravely went into his own mind, to a large part. Okay, so I have much respect for Sam Vaknin. He's amazing. So I couldn't be in a relationship with him because of the narcissistic characteristics that he has, and he's very well aware of it. But he talks about it all the time. I couldn't even be his friend because he would snap and he would insult me, and he would in order to try to save his face, his ego face, and all of this. But he's very well aware of all of this. This is what sets him apart from the rest of the cluster B community worldwide. And there may be others that are like him that are also aware of this. So this awareness process is the entry point into the inwardness and into the healing, and also ultimately into the ego dissolution funnel. And Jonathan Mese, the great artist Jonathan Mese in Germany, he said that for him it was a necessary walk into the valley of ridicule, his art life. Necessary. Very necessary. A lot of people might laugh about my artwork. This is necessary. Okay? It's necessary for me to accept that people laugh about it. That people laugh about me or how I dress, my haircut. It's necessary for me to accept that. If I feel too abandoned and lonely and dumped, then I can cry. I cry it through, but I'm not going to act it out. I'm not going to adapt to a sick society that does not allow freedom of speech and freedom of expression, that puts that template stamps us, cookie cutter stamps us into a specific behavior and functioning and handling pattern. Okay, I am not on board of that. Okay, so, and neither is Jonathan Mese. He will not be part of that. He said he's afraid of the world out there. Okay, this is scary. And Dr. Peter Singer said it too, that the ordinariness of the world of social adaptation leads to evil. And that's the truth. Okay? A cluster B person is probably the most adapted to society. They are the most afraid of swaying out of society's cookie cutter template. Okay, what the dad or society has told him that he has to be, has to look like, has to represent as a man. Okay, this is dangerous to say the least. Okay, very dangerous. And you see it. You see what's happening to civilization right now as we speak. Okay? You see how this can completely dismember any kind of democracy and any kind of formally halfway decently functioning political system. All of this has to do with that. Okay? Don't think these things are separated from one another. Okay? Talking to a hater, your belief system of having to wear black clothes as a man and having to be mean to women has every bit to do with a completely crumbling society. We see it right now happening. Okay? And Islam is really the epitome of what I'm talking about. Islam is sickness. Islam is the epitome of cluster B mental illness. People need to know this. Face it. Face the facts. Then we can work. Then we can work towards making the world a better place. What happens in a cluster B man if his act outs are literally taken away out of his hands? What happens to him if he wants to beat a woman up? Let's say he wants to beat up his psychiatrist lady. That's why in some Outer Limit films we have this. There was a film where the psychiatrist lady would only appear in 3D digital projection in the room. Okay, otherwise he would just smash her into pieces. You can't have a violent criminal just, hey, come peacefully into her fine art decorated office, right? No, he's gonna smash everything, the fine art and her. Okay? Because he's out of control in rage. He thinks she's in charge. He needs to take his charge back, is what his ego thinks. Okay? That's why he is in prison. Okay? There's a reason why people are in prison, obviously. We can't let them out, but being in a prison cell, this is not the ultimate solution. Okay? It makes things worse. It makes them even more crazy. It makes people suffer. That's not the solution. So what we have to have is extreme, ultra educated people in handling mental illness. A prison guard needs to be completely re-educated into how to peacefully deal and talk to a prisoner, not giving in to the prisoner, not holding the other cheek, but not becoming a prisoner like in the Stanford prison experiment, a prison guard like that, where the prison guards would become like the people in Guantanamo Bay, okay, where they tyrannize the prisoners. Okay, so it has to stay professional, peaceful, and very authoritative at the same time. Okay, now that's an art that can only happen if the prison guard himself is not triggered. How do we fix all of this? The prison guards have to go through a rigorous retraining, and they have to go together with the prisoners into the group therapy. Okay. There should be 10 prison guards and 10 prisoners in each group session. And all of this needs to be diverted into individual classes and so on within the prison compound. So obviously, don't put the violent ones together with the burglars or someone else who beat up he beat up his dad who was violent. Okay, those are different type of people. Okay, so there may be people who have murdered their father because the father was absolutely violent. Okay, so then that's a different type of person. That's not a cluster B necessarily. Okay, but he's also in prison. Okay, so how do we deal with these different type of people that are in prison? They definitely have to be grouped together, and then the prison guards themselves have to also participate in each group therapy session that will happen from 5 to 8 every single day. This is mandatory in all the closed therapy help centers. In the open ones, people can participate if they want to, or they don't have to. But this will offer everyone a place to go to, obviously. There's a lot of people who are suicidal, a lot of kids that have no place to go. They come from dysfunctional families where the father beats them, and so they need to have a place to go. And the therapy help center is that place. And some of these kids need to be rehomed. They need to be brought to foster parents. And people need to be educated in foster care. Not everyone should just be allowed to do this. And a lot of education needs to be happening in the individual therapy help centers themselves. They need to be educational facilities, okay, as well as the closed ones, the closed sanatoriums. They also need to be educational. They need to have entire classrooms, and they need to have different classes that they teach, and that need to be mandatory. Okay, very important. There needs to be literature that is absolutely mandatory for people. And they will also, this is on one hand mandatory, on the other hand, there should be given incentives for learning, for really reading a book attentively and filling out a multiple choice test in order for the staff to see how much of the book has been absorbed. Okay, if they score high, they will get rewards. They will get points on their credit card or something like that. Okay, where they can go into the store that they have on the compound. So all of these things will make the world a better place. So what happens in a cluster B man who is not allowed to act out, who is completely, I'm not saying restrained with a straitjacket, that's not even necessary, but who has, why do I have the spray bottle here in my hand? When cluster B Staffordshire is, no, he's not cluster B, he's just ultra rambunctious, okay, but he respects the spray bottle. So it's like, I can't jump on her now. Dang, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to go for that pillow there or that toy there that she gave me. Yeah, and then I'll reward him. I'll say, good dog, you did a good job. You're going for the toy that I gave you. You can shred that up as much as you want. Okay. So in the same sense, a cluster B man has to be restrained through, obviously, robotics. We have to have robots everywhere, and we have to have, everything has to be complete surveillance, otherwise it's not going to work. So when he feels like he has surveillance on him at all times, and his behavior is going to have a direct result in some kind of incentive, some kind of, I'm not going to use the word penalty, but in some kind of, some kind of negative result that he doesn't want to experience, then he is going to straighten out. Okay? If you give a criminal the right to beat people up in the streets of Portland, Oregon, and invade their stores, then the situation is going to escalate. It's just going to escalate further and further and further. If you give a criminal more money so that they won't commit a crime, guess what happens? He'll commit more crimes because he wants more money. Okay? Are these politicians, they're either retarded or they're so greed-based, greed-driven, that they just put their money income above anything else, above peace on earth, above a functioning society, anything. They are just money over anything, and let them butcher each other up as long as he gets his millions of dollars of kickback money. This is what's happening right now. This is a fact. Look at it. Okay, this is not working. It's not working. Some people are thinking of leaving the country. Where do we go? It's not very well working in other countries either. I don't even know where else to go. I mean, to the desert, that'll be the next possible option. So, but if this continues the way we have it right now in the United States, with Joe Biden administration, the mafia running this country, you're gonna lose your country. The United States is gonna get completely dismantled. That's what's gonna happen. And that's the ultimate treason there is to any country. So think about this very good. Really introspect. But what happens to the guy who is restrained? In the sense of he knows he can't do it. He can't act out. What is going to happen then? Where's that energy going to funnel to? He's going to have to introspect. He's going to have to look into his own mind. He's going to be forced to look into his own mind. Most people, they will only start looking into their own minds if they are forced by some circumstances. And in some cases, they're only forced to look into their own minds once they are homeless on the street, have lost everything, their wives, their money, their children, everything. Then they finally, I did something wrong with my life. It didn't work. So obviously not all people that end up on the streets have done things wrong. So the entire political system is driving people to the streets right now. So even without their own fault. Just wanted to mention this on the side so that people don't misunderstand this. But in most cases, when people are having their own economic collapse, they have their family collapse, they have the family members leaving them, there's a reason for it. Okay, definitely. So they have to face their own faults. They have to face their own mistakes. So this guy Brian, he would have to face their own fault, his own faults. He would have to be confronted with the fact that what he did there with that lady was a capital crime and the worst act out one can do to another living being. And that it was his fault, that she had nothing to do with this. It was his ego and his criminal insanity driving him to do this. And with introspection and systematic work on people's minds, the cluster B and all the closed facility people, they have to be restrained in this particular setting. And they have to be rigorously helped through this. Okay. And then maybe things can get better. So, peace and love.